Va bene, dai, Darillo, dai, Federico, dai, CRESTA ALTA, podcastevole di più.
Amiche e amici, ben trovati a CRESTA ALTA, il podcast di Federico e Danilo Gallinari.
Siamo sempre live, tra l'altro con un ospite. Mi dicono anche che tutta la puntata sarà in spagnolo, cosa che è abbastanza sconosciuta a me e a te.
No, la puntata in spagnolo è veramente dura, difficile. Provo a far lasciare parlare voi due in spagnolo, but I will speak in English for sure. Is here with us Rodrigo Alvira.
Ole!
Ole!
What's up,
Rodrigo,
guys?
you can speak in Spanish if you want, though.
We can probably keep it in English better. O en español, lo que queráis.
English is good enough.
It's good for me because between the three, I will be the one with problems in Spanish. You
For
two guys
sure.
can speak Spanish all day long. But
Here in Miami, if you don't speak Spanish, you are not in the right place.
I bet. I know. I've been in Miami a couple times in the past year or so because I got a friend there. Actually, he's Italian friend, Matteo from Rome. And,
Okay.
I've been a couple times. He speaks very fluent Spanish too, and yeah, everywhere you go, everybody knows Spanish. It's crazy.
So yeah, not a European in the Pistons, baby. Europe is taking over the Pistons, Danny.
That's right.
Just so you know. Just so you
Yeah,
know.
Me gusta.
Rodrigo, how are you? How's everything going with you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on the Pistons. Excited to be in Detroit. Excited to be here with you guys. So let's go.
Nice. So, Rodrigo, I brought you on this podcast because we always talk about basketball. And I think it's a good thing to bring a trainer in to talk a little bit more about, the weight room side of basketball and all of that. So I would like for you to just tell our fans and our viewers a little bit more about you, where you come from, and how did you end up with the Pistons and the Motor City Cruise that going to start the training camp tomorrow, by the way.
That's right. So, I mean, I played basketball my whole life when I was living in Spain. Got an offer to play college, Division II in the U.S. Before it was high school, didn't come for high school for different reasons. Came in college, played college very badly because then I realized what the level was here compared to Europe. And that's kind of when the route started for strength conditioning because I think a lot of European players come to the U.S. and realize the physical side of things change a lot here. I think that's one of the biggest. Well, that was one of my biggest issues, and then got into the weight room, realized that you can get bigger, faster, stronger, whatever you want to call it, and combine it with the sport. And that's kind of how I ended up. Then I've been since 2014. I've been here. I left a little bit for Dubai, then I came back. And then since then, college, most of the time, having some people training on the side, different teams and consulting, whatever. So I'm now here in Detroit.
How did you get in contact with Detroit?
So that happened through different people I knew. So somebody that's on the Pelicans right now, Daniel Bove. It's somebody I've been helping out with some of his projects on the side. He was writing he's been writing some books, and then he knew Corey Schlesinger. He's the director here at the Pistons. And we knew common people, and I met Corey a couple of times, and they trusted me, so they brought me over.
España,
There we go.
¿De dónde? España, ¿de dónde?
De Zaragoza.
Zaragoza, tenemos un jugador italiano ahora in Zaragoza,
¿Quién
Chi?
es?
Come chi, Fede? C'è il mitico Marchino Spissu in quel di Zaragoza.
Ah, è vero! You're right. Marco Spissu in
Salutiamo Marchino.
Ciao. Dovremmo portarlo. We will have to bring Spissu with us. We have great memories together back in the ACJ when we were younger. So, Rodrigo, right? I have a good question for you. I think because you start playing basketball, I play basketball too. But then I decided to coach basketball what made you go to the training side of things instead of staying more on the basketball side?
I think that's just because I was so weak and skinny. It was always one of my biggest issues. I was always self-conscious about being skinny and whatever. And the weight room was always my escape because I feel like I was one of those players that when you cannot perform well on the basketball court, you find something outside of it where you don't have to compete with nobody else. And the weight room turns into that place where it's only you against you, which is, I think, is very bad for a lot of players because it like turns them away from competition, which is the opposite of what you should do. But that's kind of the route I follow. And then I was like, yeah, let's at least get
Federico,
bigger.
why did you decide to coach instead of playing basketball? You never told us on this podcast. We want to know.
Basketball, because I decided to coach because I was in the USA. In the USA, after a certain point, you have to realize that if you want to play basketball, you go in the NBA or it's tough. And so with that, I started coaching a little bit on the side during the summer, and I found a new love for basketball. And I wanted to stay in the USA, and to be able to do that, I was the best way to do it was for me to coach. So here I am.
Okay.
Good answer. Did you like the answer?
I don't mind.
How's your relationship with the weight room during your basketball career?
My relationship was that I had one of the greatest trainers ever, Simone Lassini, which was my trainer in Olimpia Milano when I was in Milano. And, the way that he was training, he was kind of old school. So you do a lot of heavy weights to strengthening the body, and then you transform all that going, on the court. But the program was very different from the programs that players do nowadays. Honestly, that's the way that I like to train in the weight room. And, all these years, I changed so many strengthening coach that I was able to understand different philosophies and different ways of doing weight training, but that's still my favorite. I don't know why. Maybe because I grew up, I was so young and I got used to that. But it's still my favorite. I think that nowadays, even especially during the season, you don't put too much, strengthening work. You don't do heavy weights, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think that sometimes you can still do heavy weights and especially work on the legs. I like to work on the lower body better than the upper body. And so I think that you can still do that. But, a lot of the trainers that I work with, you don't do that much of heavy weight room. And with him, I was doing something that it was crazy that now I was thinking about it now, it was such ahead of time. We were doing all the stuff that lately, past few years, especially in the summer, a lot of players do, a lot of trainers do, where you put some bands on your legs. They are attached to some base. And you jump and run and do all kind of sliding and movement with the bands, and you're attached to the bands, and then you take the bands off and you feel like you're flying. So hopefully I gave you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. But yes, I miss Simone, and this is my, for me, the weight room is very important. There was a coach one time, there is a coach, his name is Coach George Carl, and he was my coach in Denver, one of the best coaches that I ever had, and of course, one of the best coaches in the history of the game. At the beginning, he was telling me, you should spend a little more time on the court. You're always in the weight room. You should spend more time on the court working on your game, which I was doing both, of course, but I was spending a lot of time in the weight room, and that's something that I always done, something that I needed to do. And by nature, I'm stronger on my upper body, but I need to work on my lower body consistently. And but yes, weight room at the end of the summer is that weight room is very important for me, and I think it's very important for every player.
I like it. I used to love the weight room too. Rodrigo
Did I talk too much or no?
No, I mean that's Rodrigo field. So Rodrigo gotta tell me if it was a good answer or not.
No, I think it's amazing. That's it. I don't think a lot of players appreciate the weight room that way anymore. So like exactly what you said, a lot of players don't want to do heavy stuff. They don't want to load a barbell on their back or front barbell or deadlift. So different lifts that are going to be more old school, more traditional way of training. And I think is one of the things you said is like you did it since you were younger. So you got used to that style of lifting. And then when you get to the high level, you're still accustomed to that way of lifting. So it doesn't affect you that much negatively on the court. I think if players haven't been used to it when they're younger, it's hard to get used to that style of lifting when you are older. And when you're already on the league and there's so much load. I love that. And that would be the perfect answer for any strength and conditioning coach. Like somebody like you, they would love to have someone like you because it would be like, we can do all kinds of like heavy stuff, heavy lifting. And more.
And you can pick, of course, during the season is tougher, but you can pick the days, you can set a program down and, of course, you have to make it individual because everybody is different. The way that I answer to leg extension is different from the way that another player answers muscles-wise to the same leg extension. So it's everybody has his own program, but definitely something that I think that prevents you from injuries too. The way that the concept is that this is my experience. Of course, I haven't studied this just from experience, but the way that the NBA season is, you cannot approach the NBA season with the natural, with your body without working on your body. Just with the natural progress of your body and the process that your body has to be built to sustain the NBA season. You cannot do that. You have to help yourself with weight room, I think. And so if you have a good program in the weight room, then you have a better chance of sustaining the NBA season, I think.
Yeah, because it gives you like the core gives you a very high stimulus in terms of very high forces at very high velocity. And then you go in the weight room, but you can do high forces at a slower velocity. So contractions are going to be much slower, which is going to help you pull away from those fast contractions that are the ones that hurt you most of the time.
And also in the weight room, you can work on angles that usually you don't do when you play the game. When you play the game, more or less, you always kind of in the same angles. You don't squat too much. You don't go too low. But the more you work on the angles that you don't really experience during the basketball game, the more the body is ready when it's time to go in those angles, but also you strengthen your body in the angles that you use during the game. So I give you an example that happened to me. I had many years ago, I have chondromalacia on both knees. So now we are talking a little specific, but chondromalacia.
For people that don't know what this is, right? Because you always ask me to explain. Now I need you to explain, caro Danilo, or Rodrigo to explain, one of you two, because I have no idea.
Yeah, I will try to explain. Rodrigo is the expert. He can correct me if I'm wrong. But chondromalacia is basically an inflammation of the cartilage underneath the patella bone. And there is a little inflammation where it could be huge inflammation that creates an actual hole in the cartilage, or the inflammation could be small where you just see the inflammation but the cartilage is not damaged. In my case, I have an inflammation but the cartilage is intact. There is no damage. But when I squat down in certain angles, I used to have pain. And so the pain was it was like a 15 degrees angle, right? Over that angle, I wasn't feeling pain. Then I was going through that angle and my muscle were shutting down. And then underneath that angle, I wasn't feeling pain. So I had to work on the lower angles and on the higher angles, just so, that 20 degree, 15 degree became 10 degree, then 5 degree, then now I don't have any more pain in my legs, in my knees. So that's something, for example, that I had to do, that I did in the weight room, not by playing games. And that's where I had to go in those very deep squats angles that really helped me overcome this kind of pain. This is just conceptually one thing that I think that can help a player, not just to cure a problem, but just also to improve performance.
Yep, 100%. I mean, that's if there was an interview, I'll give you the job, because like that's 100. When you come to especially when you're talking about high level basketball, is such a stiff, elastic sport where you're like on those higher angles all the time, and players are very, very strong in those angles, very fast. But we're missing those deeper angles that are, like you said, they're gonna help strengthen those angles that you never get to touch, and also the angles that you're already working on. That's what's gonna help you. But everything you said right there is just, this is gold.
Gracias, Rodrigo.
You should have a class with all the rookies, man.
Yes, we will need that. For sure.
How difficult, Rodrigo, how difficult it is, for example, for me as a basketball coach, it's not that difficult to bring the guys on the basketball court and play, right? Because it's what they love to do. Some of those guys don't really like the weight room. How difficult it is, like, for you to bring guys to the weight room? Are all those guys willing to come in and work every day? Or like, what is your approach to guys that are a little bit more difficult to bring in the weight room?
Yeah, so like it depends on the background they have. So if you have somebody like Danilo, he will be there already waiting for you, which is amazing. But then you're gonna have guys that they're just talented physically. So they've been able to do everything they want on the court. They're strong and they're fast. They can jump high. So all they think about that the weight room is to get stronger. So they don't think about the health side of things, because they never got injured either a lot of the times. They also sometimes have experiences where some strength coaches have used more of that old school view a little bit too much sometimes, and they created some kind of fear for the weight room. So I think it's all about, if you're able to first accommodate a little bit, you have somebody that likes more old school, then we're going to be doing squats, front squat, deadlift, RDLs, whatever we want. Somebody that does not really like that style of training, then we need to be able to do the same thing, but we might have to use more machines. We might have to use different unilateral lifts, something that's going to be a little more comfortable to do. So I think that's the way to do it. You just have to listen to the players. Like, you can't just walk in and think that everything you know is the best, because there's a million ways of doing one thing. And the more you can adapt to the style of training that they like, the goals that they have, and also explaining the players. So a lot of strength coaches, what they would think is like, you don't know anything about strength conditioning. I'm gonna tell you what to do. You're gonna do it. You're gonna be better off. And instead of doing that, you sit down with those players and you explain them why you're doing what we're doing. And you also give them the room for them to tell you, I'm not comfortable with this lift, or this hurts, or after we do this the day after, I don't feel that well. And then you adapt to what they feel like. And if they don't like to do something, then you don't do that with them. That's as simple. Of course, if you're working with somebody that's younger, then you need to try to have them a little more open to do things that they might not be comfortable with.
Rodrigo, give a program to my brother to lose il gordo. È un pochino gordo, ragazzo. Tiene la panza, la gordita. Gli serve we need a program for him to lose weight in the belly. We need to bring the six pack back.
Hey, every time I see him, he's running the court back and forth. So it might have to be with the diet.
It might have to be with a diet. That's the tough part. That's the tough part. Oh my God. Rodrigo, so you have a very nice YouTube page. I want to tell you congrats. I really look at it and I really like nice YouTube page. But I would like for you to explain a little bit more what kind of content you bring, what kind of information you bring to the people, and also the name of your YouTube page or what you do, so people know and can go check you out.
Yeah, so it's called Spaniard Performance. Kind of came out handy because they called me Spaniard at some point. I was like, that's kind of a cool name, and that's just where the name come from. And then it all evolved from like I started with some fitness stuff at the beginning because I didn't know if I wanted to go into sports. And when I realized that I wanted to go into basketball, it started being more about interviewing guests. So I bring a lot of researchers. Mostly everybody that I had is Spanish speaking, but I wanna broaden that up. But a lot of researchers that are going to talk about the health aspect of things, or different coaches that had different experiences in different leagues, professional level, different sports. And then I do individual podcasts that are more oriented to, like, let's say athletes that are a little bit more advanced on their knowledge in strength conditioning, and they just want to know a little bit more of why they're doing what they're doing. Because that's been one of the biggest things. Like, I want my athletes to know why we do what we do. They need to know the reasoning behind it. When you're doing something, no matter what you're doing, you want to know what you're doing. And once you know that, then you're going to buy in much more than if you didn't know. And the second part is, of course, for coaches that either basketball coaches or strength and conditioning coaches that want to dive deeper into like how to train the body, how to look for certain adaptations, how to train different type of athletes, how to read, like, if we're talking technology, like we're talking force plates or different testing devices, how to use those, how to interpret that data, how to learn how to see how a basketball player moves and how to give that guy what he needs, like in terms of certain injuries or certain moments of the season. So that's kind of what we cover there.
So you can bring me back to dunking. I cannot dunk as much as I used to anymore, guys.
That'll be a cool YouTube series.
That would be a great YouTube series.
It's crazy to see the decline of Federico trying to dunk. I remember when he was trying, he was never able to dunk, jumping off his right leg as lefties. Guys, but out of his off his left, he was able to do it. Now he cannot even do it with his left leg. It's really, I've never seen anything like this. He's 27, and he cannot dunk. I've never seen anything like this. I saw videos of Julius Erving and Michael Jordan at 70 that will be able to jump, but he cannot jump no more at 27. We need help. Necesitamos ayuda, por favor.
Oh my God. Hey, Rodrigo, we gotta start a series where I go back to like dunking for real, so we can make sure that Danilo then is not gonna say stuff like this anymore.
Yeah, we should do that. For sure.
100%. Rodrigo, what's your favorite soccer team?
Oh man, that's where you get me. I don't watch soccer at all.
Oh, that's an interesting answer.
If I had to say a team, it's gonna be Zaragoza for sure.
Okay.
But when
Fede, I want you to pronounce Zaragoza just like Rodrigo. Let's see how many tries do you need.
I have the Invisalign on. I can do the the Zaragoza che fa con la he does with the
Guys,
I would try.
To listen Federico speaking in Spanish is one of the most funny things that you ever gonna see or heard.
Rodrigo, is my Spanish good or not?
I've heard a couple words. You should hear my Italian. That's the worst part.
But Rodrigo has an Italian wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Italian wife?
Yeah, she's from Milan.
Oh, nice. Varese. You came to Italy to find your wife.
Actually, we found it here in Wisconsin.
Crazy.
We met in Wisconsin. Yes.
No way.
Interesting story.
True Italian from Milan. Nice. Varese.
Not bad. Rodrigo, I have a question for you. What do you think?
No, wait. Rodrigo, how did you convince this beautiful woman from Varese to marry you?
You know that Italians always come to Spain to steal a Spanish woman. So then I saw her in Wisconsin.
I didn't know. This is new to me. I didn't know.
That's
I've
the legend.
never been in Spain. I never went out in Spain, and I don't have Spanish friends, so I have no idea.
So I had to. That was a revenge. I had to steal one of yours.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah, I gotta work on my Italian for sure. I need to. Can't speak when I speak to her family. It's a rough time.
Oof!
Very bad.
Fede, what do you say to a Spanish woman when you see her and she is beautiful? What do you say?
La chica es guapa. Guapa! Linda, guapa, linda, guapa. Va bene così, no? It's good like that, no problem. That's all they need to know.
You just need the Italian accent, that's all.
Exactly. But Rodrigo, what do you think is the sport with the most complete body?
We're actually talking about that with Corey the other day.
Yeah?
I think, sure, like American football, especially like when we're talking about the smaller, more skilled positions, they're very complete athletes. They're strong, they're fast, they can move very well. But then if you think about basketball, we're talking about the biggest guys in any sport, almost the tallest, longest limbs, and the ones that move the best. Like we have guys that are 7 feet, and they move amazing. They move like they're better than anybody that's under 6 feet. So it's crazy to see that. So that means that they're very strong and they control their body very well in order to do that. So I think, I don't know, in terms of overall, like how they move, the skill that they can have, how strong they are on the angles that they are, and how tough the sport is as well. I think basketball is one of the craziest, like, physical sports that you can see. Because it's also hard. Like, a lot of people judges basketball from the TV. When you're in the court and you see, I mean, when you're playing, Danilo can tell us better than anybody, but when you inside the court, it's crazy to see, like, how rough this sport is, how fast it is, and it's insane. So I think I'm going to go with basketball. I'm biased, but
that's a good answer. You think, Danny? You think that's a right? That's what you think too?
Yeah,
people
one of the most complete sports for sure, for sure.
I have people say water polo too. Water polo is an interesting sport.
Yeah,
and I think you really have to be strong because they pull you down in the water and you cannot drown.
Amazing, yeah.
That's a tough sport. So Rodrigo, we have a couple more minutes, but you're starting with the Pistons right now. What's your final goal? Where do you want to bring your knowledge? What's your dream?
I don't know. I think
one dream you already achieved, which is marrying an Italian woman. The second dream, let's hear.
That is for sure the first dream. So I got that one done. I don't know. I definitely like. I think Corey has a great position. That's something that I would love to experience, and I need many more years of experience. I think working individually with very high level players is something that I really like, because then you become in a different aspect. You become closer to the player and become a friend, and you know them very well in order to help them. So I think that's amazing too. The few players that I've been able to do that, especially Spanish players, it was great to have a relationship with those guys and to know what they like, what they don't like, how to train with them, how to advise them. So that's great too. But I think finding a good spot to live. Danilo, you're in Miami right now?
See.
That's a dream. Miami. I love Miami. So yeah, that would be a great location too. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like the NBA so far very much. Everything I've seen, it's been a month and a half. But yeah, I think my path could be here for sure.
Is it true that the trainers know all the players' secrets?
So far, I don't know any secrets.
usually the players talk to the trainers because, in the morning and all of that before you go on the court.
Maybe. I'll try to see once I'm a few months in.
Exactly. Oh my God. Right, guys, we reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Rodrigo, for coming to our podcast. Make sure you check
at
his...
least thank Rodrigo in Spanish. Say something in Spanish. Make him feel welcome and warm on this podcast. At least try. Make us laugh for 2 seconds.
Gracias, Rodrigo, para venir aquí con nosotros, para el 30 minutos aquí con nosotros. Hey, not bad though. I see you saw the face. It was pretty good.
Yes,
it's pretty good. Not bad. But no, everybody, make sure you check Rodrigo's page. I'm gonna post everything, and make sure you like, subscribe, and comment.
Ciao.
Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you.
Fuori dal blocco, prendo la palla, tiro da 3. I 2 fratelli spiegano il gioco solo per te. Apri le ali a testa alta, segui il podcast. Gallinaria, cresta alta, questo è il podcast.